Morning, everyone. Morning, 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 morning.
Glitter!
Don't.
Glitter!
Don't.
I've got glitter.
I knew you were going to do that.
Nothing.
As soon as we were doing
Nothing frightens him more than glitter.
I can't swear as much as I'd like to.
I was good to you because I know how much he hates it. But you had the same look of terror. They didn't see it because you were out of the shot. But the terror, as Keir Starmer, it was the same feeling. So do you sympathise with Keir?
Well, should we watch Keir? Should we see how he responded? Does anyone?
Mark has an irrational fear of glitter.
I had every bit of sympathy for him. Let's check it out.
I know, and then you put his arm around him.
Is that Ed? It looks like Ed Miliband.
No, it's not Ed Miliband. Don't be silly. Ed Miliband.
No, but I tell you what was going on there. For a minute, Keir Starmer thought that was Ed Miliband attacking him. That's why he looked confused.
But Mark, tell us about your fear of glitter. It is huge. There is a family member, I won't name them, who would often hurl glitter around the house.
Right. Okay. Number of things. I actually think that my facial eczema got worse when I met you because your family seemed to do so much, whether it be to do with effing ABBA, Mamma Mia, fairies, idiocy, stupidity, fucking this stuff would be everywhere. So it would go here and then it would go in here. And then I took my asthma pump once and I thought, what the hell has gone into my lungs? I look in it and there's a little mound of it.
You know, we're a showbiz family and we all show offs, unashamedly show offs. And we love to party. So yeah, glitter has disappeared from the Sawala household since meeting Mark.
Sometimes when Dina comes in, I say to her, I have to do a shakedown on you. And she does a shakedown and there's literally a little mound.
Do you know what, Mark? My dad was exactly the same. It's men. They just don't understand glitter. Are there any men here that feel the same way about glitter?
I mean, thankfully, I don't have a foreskin, so it doesn't get stuck in there.
Do you know I only found out they had no foreskin? When was it? A year ago. You brought up foreskins, not me. I had no intention of talking about your foreskin today.
Well, I don't have one.
Or lack of.
I was going to say, that's an oxymoron.
You brought it up.
Well, I brought more than that up.
Don't wait for applause.
I wasn't waiting for applause.
You were waiting for applause.
Glitter is the most annoying thing. The only time I vaguely enjoyed glitter was probably at a rave back in the 90s when some mad fairy woman danced towards me in some kind of tent.
Oh my God, I love that. Christine, hi. I hate glitter. Christine, thank you for the simplicity of your message. Erin Bollamore, glitter is terrible. It gets everywhere and takes a fucking century to get it out of the house.
Thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
It's so I get his path. Yeah. Poor old Starmer, if he gets elected and he's Prime Minister, he'll still find a bit somewhere as he's doing his speech to the press.
We'll see just a little. Yeah. We'll see just
in a year and a half when he's standing down the street, there'll be a glint here and he'll have scrubbed himself senseless. But he'll still have that bit of glitter from back in the day.
But hopefully he spoke to, he mentioned, he used the terminology working class many times in his speech.
Me and Nadia both, let's be honest, let's do a little behind the scenes moment. We both felt we had to and have to and should, because we talked a lot about the Conservative Party conference, talk about the Labour Party conference. Now, obviously, we make no secret of the fact that we lean left, and we don't lean right. So we find ourselves more aligned to kind of Labour Party policies than we do Conservatives.
I lie flat left.
Well, yes, but that doesn't necessarily. But what that doesn't mean is I don't think anyone should have a blinkered, obsessive, blind belief in whatever the parties do. So
but I do think Keir is a decent man, and I think.
I think his response to the glitter shows you also.
I think it's the sign of the times that because he has a very honest, very plain delivery, he is vilified for not being a showman and not for being a showboater. When is that what you call it, showboater?
Yeah, it's a nice. But
and
you're right. The cult
really,
of the personality is a massive deal, isn't it?
And it's like we don't learn these leaders with this shabazz and shebang and show business style are often don't give a shit about people. And I think Keir does care about people.
Yeah, he's unexciting but effective.
Yes, but we don't want exciting. We need a really steady hand from a person that really, really cares. And I really like Angela Rayner. And I really like, oh my God, what's her name now? The Education Minister.
Yvette Cooper.
Is
she the Education Minister? She is.
She is, isn't she?
Yeah, I think she is.
Shadow. And that really interests me, what they were saying on the
I slightly disagree. I mean, on the one hand, yes, I get what you're saying. I don't think a politician should be all about whether they are brilliant with the media, in the media, whether they...
I know what you're going to say.
But I have to say, I do think it is a defining aspect of leadership and good leaders that you're good orators, you're good talkers. You create ideas or thought. If you think of, it's not, don't get me wrong, most of the greatest speeches in history by presidents or prime ministers weren't written by the presidents or prime ministers. But in a weird way, like an actor, they have to inhabit and understand what it is they're saying and believe it so much in order to get it across in the way that they do it. There has to be the believability factor. And I sometimes worry...
People believed Suella Braverman, and I found her so staged and she's so performative.
Well, I'm going to say something really contentious. I despised every single aspect of her speech, but it was a highly effective piece of speechery.
It was, yes, but not for me.
No, because if you had someone with her capacity
where
to do
the coach had said to her, hold the moment, lift the hand. For me, she was like a puppet. I didn't think she was she didn't move me.
It was a very well-written speech, unfortunately.
It was a well-written speech to dog whistle anger and hate. Yes.
Yeah, Hannah Lieb shoots. You should not want leaders with showbiz personality. If I wanted her to hear someone talk sense with politics but has a showbiz personality, I would listen to a comedian. Often they talk sense. That absolutely isn't what I'm saying. What I do think is important with leaders is that they have the gift and unfortunately,
reach people.
Well, not just reach people, but also to kind of translate sometimes complicated ideas in a way that's relevant and relatable to people's everyday lives, so people can grasp it and go, oh, okay, I don't think I've had that moment with a politician in absolutely centuries where I've gone, oh, right, that's quite a clever thought, because everything is aligned to getting into power, winning the electorate. And so if you've got the electorate forever dictating what they're saying, you're never going to hear anything new, are you? Because you're going to just hear a version of what you've heard someone say down a pub in the Spoons.
I mean, the thing is, he really does come from a working class family. He was a child carer. His mother was very poorly. He's a really good person. If you listen to his interview,
I've certainly softened. Yeah,
and the thing is, the Tories love to make big of the fact that he's a sir. But if you look back to how he's got to where he's got,
is he not one of the few sirs who worked his way there, rather than kind of being, a mate of Boris's who had to kind of wander around the sort of lavatory?
I think his dad was a plumber, but people don't buy into that.
Lee Doran, I'd quite like to go down the pub with Keir. I wouldn't mind having a pint with him. I don't drink that.
We had Angela Rayner on Loose Women, and I really liked it. And I tell you who else I really, really liked, and every part of my instinct was like, this is a good person. Leader of the Liberal Party.
Oh yeah.
He's a very decent guy.
No, Nick Clegg.
No.
Thingy Davies. Ed Davies.
Ed Davies, yeah.
Just quickly on this, and then we'll move on. The chatter that's coming through a lot of the kind of mainstream media, or MSM as we like to call them, is that Angela Rayner is setting Starmer up for a fall. I think there is a bit of a kind of leadership contest behind the scenes going on there. So the suggestion from some pundits is that she's made promises at the conference that he is in no way going to be able to deliver upon, and she's going to be able to kind of hop. So I think there's some little bit of jostling, which happens in all politics. That's not, I really want to watch the thick of it again since you mentioned it.
I really want to watch.
Yeah.
Just to touch on Yvette Cooper's speech as well, because we've talked a lot about this. I really liked what she was saying about maths, because how many times have we moaned about this on here? and that we've got to get the numeracy sorted. I mean, they all say this stuff, don't they, at the beginning? But let me say,
but they're talking maths for life, aren't they?
They're talking maths for life. They're talking about making it more relevant to kids. They're talking about let's worry first about the 6-year-olds that don't have numeracy, rather than saying making all kids do maths until 18, many of whom haven't understood it from the age of 6 upwards. So I think a lot of people are wanting a shift in education at the moment, aren't they?
Erin Bullimore, Angela Rayner's speech was better than Keir's, much more relatable than him, and has some charisma. And she also, she's
very good.
I mean, it's weird because whilst it's a shame, because in a weird way, although Keir Starmer has worked hard for that Sir, it parks him one step away from sort of ordinary folk in a way that Angela Rayner has that immediate kind of connectivity.
It's almost like she'd be better as leader and he'd be better as a deputy.
A
steady, very, very steady, highly educated, very smart, very well informed deputy would be amazing.
I mean, they have to do something spectacularly wrong not to win the next election.
She's got charisma. I tell you, when she came into the studio, I was like, whoa.
But I think the fact that they are in such a spectacularly strong position with automatically almost winning the keys to the Beamer at the next election, that's why I think we could see a real jostle for power, because any jostle for power on the left can happen quite safely now because they have a huge sort of advantage, don't they, on the Tories?
Well, do you remember when she famously said, we should just put a bit more welly into it?
Yeah, absolutely.
She's got a truer word has not been said. Give us a bit more welly.
But I have to say, I thought the way he responded gave me a real insight, actually. I hadn't seen it quite like that. The only other thing I would say about maths, it's really good. It's always a shame that they only ever focus on maths. Why don't we just can we not focus on improving?
No, it was English as well. Yeah, no, but I think there's a lot of chat around maths, isn't there, because of this ridiculous idea of wishes.
Okay, just quickly, just a bit of admin for those of you who are listening on podcast and you're not followers of the channel. There's a members live happening tonight at 6.
With me.
And what was the thing I was going to say? Oh, and there's going to be no coffee moaning tomorrow. Neither of us can do it, but there will be a wine o'clock. So that's just so you know. Holly Willoughby.
Tomorrow or Friday, we haven't decided.
No, it has to be tomorrow. I can't do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Holly Willoughby. This story broke last night, and I sort of said, should we sort of really be commenting on it? I mean, it's a very sad time, I think, personally. Regardless of what you think of Holly Willoughby, I feel like however she looks back on this time, what a horrendous way for it all to kind of unravel.
Well, as I've said many times on here, since Philip's admission of his behaviour, well, actually, for me, right from when there was the Q gate, and I really think it was just.
Oh, that was kind of a turn.
I don't know what happened. Who can know what happened? But all I know is if I were to be accused of something alongside my colleague, a fellow presenter, I would have made sure that I was doing the voiceover with my colleague of apology rather than letting just...
Is that what happened?
Well, the video, which was just... Yeah, it was just Holly talking. It wasn't... and Philip didn't. And I just noticed from around that time... I think many parts of the media have been incredibly unfair on her compared to Philip. I just feel like there's been a whole load of misogyny going on towards her. And as I've said many times before, I don't know Holly. I've passed her in the corridor and say hello. I don't know her. But I see what I see, and I think... Sometimes I think she's almost blamed more than Philip for what Philip admitted to, weirdly. Seems to be more anger towards her.
Oh, for a fact.
And is that because
depressing.
she was still standing? Is that because she's beautiful and because she's well off and because she has what appears to be, the perfect life? I don't know. I think a lot of that does come into that sort of thing, actually, in the trolling. And so I don't like that. It doesn't sit well with me at all that she seems to have been attacked over a sustained period of time. And then, of course, the latest, we don't want to name this person, we don't want to talk about the details of this person, the latest horror, and it is a horror. I my skin crawls at the thought of how she must have been left feeling, how her family must have been left feeling. It's absolutely horrific. So, how can we know? We don't know what has finally made her do this, but all of that together, she must think, do you know what? I'm sick and tired.
Emma Margaret Holly was a huge part of the reason I love watching This Morning. It'll be very odd not seeing her every morning. The haters and witch hunters have unfortunately won. I agree with Nadia. I do that was the part of this that I thought was a real shame in a sense, is that I think, as you rightly say, we don't know the exact details. This could have been a decision that she was actually arriving at anyway prior to this most recent kind of episode. My worry is that it will send a signal out to idiots like that unspeakable individual that in some way they can enact change by their
that's
behavior.
Not true. So don't let
no,
think
it's
that.
Not true. But I think, come on, these people have got slightly sort of warped kind of brains, haven't they? So I think there's going to be that lovely satisfaction of, oh, we've got a scalp or something. So, why, where, and for what purpose? And when these people who want these scalps get to the pearly gates of heaven, what's going to happen there? It's just ridiculous. But let's read out her statement.
I'm just waiting now for all the press to not all the press, some of the press to go the other way. Oh, poor Holly, and just stand like, oh, what a terrible time she's had. Well, just remember, you played a bloody big part in that.
So she said, her full statement said, I've let ITV know today that after 14 years, I'll not be returning to This Morning. To everyone who's ever worked on the show over the years, thank you so, so much. This is such a difficult goodbye. You're incredible, and I forever will be proud of what we've done together. Thank you to everyone at ITV for being supportive. To every guest who sat on our sofa, thank you. Most of all, thank you to the wonderful viewers. You've been so loyal, so supportive, and the very best company every day. Richard and Judy said, we only look after this show. It will always belong to the viewers. It's been an honour to just be part of its story, and I know this story has many chapters left to go. Sadly, however, I now feel I have to make this decision for me and my family. I will miss you all so much. Holly.
Oh, I think it's a real shame. I just think, yeah.
Now, a number of you saying, well, what will she do next? I actually think, given her profile, and she used to be on Celebrity Juice, I think
she'll be able to pick and choose.
Well, I think she'll be able to pick and choose, but I also think she does have a profile that lends itself quite well to almost any genre. I think she can. I think she'll be all right. I think she just needs to take a breather, nurse her wounds, take some time out, and I think she'll bounce back. I think she'll be wanted.
Horrible.
Wanted. But
yeah, of course she will be. Yeah.
So that's Holly Willoughby, who's quit ITV. I mean, interesting moment for This Morning. I mean, wow, it's and they're just
God, what's going to happen there?
They're sort of refinding their feet, aren't they? You sort of wonder whether, anyway. Okay.
I adore Alison and Joseph.
Yeah, no, and apparently they do. It's a real success.
A lot of the time in ITV, you'll see people walk down the corridor and you go, oh, God, never will Alison run towards them.
Am I right in thinking This Morning used to be called Richard and Judy? Or did it start as This Morning with Richard and Judy?
I don't know.
Because I remember when I was in my last year of my first degree, which was 1992, it being on telly in 1992. So how long ago was that?
Well,
but
if that quote, the quote that Holly gave, which is Rich and Judy said, it's not anyone's show, it's the viewer's show. Maybe not.
Because Richard and Judy, you'd think they probably thought was their show.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's 3 hours of telly. Like someone said, its viewing figures are 700,000. That doesn't really reflect. There was a really good piece somewhere talking about the significance of a show like This Morning. You've got lots of friends who work on it.
I loved Richard and Judy, I have to say.
Far more than 700,000 people dip into it. It is one of those grazing shows, isn't it, that you have on in the background. So yeah, anyway. Of course, we're going to have to, before we get to some of the heartwarming bits and bobs, we're just going to pass through the continuing tragedy of Israel and Palestine. Wow. I think we're going to less pass comment, but more give you some sort of facts of the day. There's been the suggestion that Suella Braverman has suggested that waving a Palestinian flag should maybe not be legitimate. Again, it feels like, obviously, there should be, what we're pushing back against here, there are terribly awful, lamentable examples of of Israeli flags being burnt, of swastikas being daubed in awful places,
Of course, absolutely.
which is absolutely unforgivable.
Is a no.
And I think that what happens with flags, which is really tricky, and I find this with the St. George's flag, I see the St. George's flag as a really aggressive flag.
I know, isn't it a shame
And
that
it is a
that's
shame.
the case?
But I do think flags become incredibly, well, I mean, that's what a flag was for, wasn't it? A flag was to be had on the battlefield for you to kind of all pull around and know your unit and fight and morale boost and know that you were all united around your flagpole, essentially. So it's hard, I always find it hard to see a flag as anything other than quite aggressive. But I think to ban one side's flag at this moment is really
It's so inflammatory.
dangerous.
I mean, listen, imagine if one of your members of your family or friends are in Gaza, 2 million people there, 50% of which are under 15. There's a humanitarian crisis going on in Gaza. They now have no electricity, no water. They have cut off everything.
They have fuel apparently their reserves of fuel will last another 40 minutes. Now, before we home in on the Gaza thing, it's really important to say, Lee, you mentioned, there are all sorts of continuingly evolving stories of the atrocities that have been enacted in this kind of assault, if you like, and terrorist assault on Israel at the peak. And can I just say, one of the most tragic aspects of this whole thing for me is that apparently the vast majority of the youngsters who were in attendance at the Peace Festival in Israel were Palestinian sympathizers. They were actually members. This is just one of those moments where you just put your head in your hands at the sadness of the whole situation.
It was a peace festival.
It was a peace festival, but nearly all of them were pro-Palestinian.
But this is the madness of war and the innocents that are just caught up in it in the most brutal and vile way. And we always, of course, every single atrocity that has been, eked out. What's the word? Not the word. What's the word?
Inflicted.
Inflicted by Hamas is despicable and savage and horrific. But to punish, the punishment that is now going on.
Well, we're starting to get into proportionality
of the innocent, also innocent people in Gaza, many of whom, do not support Hamas. And are sick and tired of the continued warlike situation that they live in. And as I was saying, 50% of the population in Gaza are under 15. I was listening to a doctor today who's hiding in the UN building. And, Nick Ferrari was saying to him, so, the electricity and what he said, there's none. It's not like they're turning it on and off. They have cut off all electricity.
Sky News, and this is from Sky News, have got drone footage of the devastation in Gaza City.
All the water. These are people where there is 40% unemployment, 65% live under the poverty line. What is going to come out of this? Where are we going to end up if we are obliterating on the other side as well? Obliterate. I mean, look at that. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. The UN are putting out appeals now, aren't they? And saying,
well, the tone of the internet, look, I mean, I think we were saying the same thing. There had to be a moment. There had to be a moment where everyone heard, felt, saw, recognized and validated Israel's pain and agony of what happened. And that there had to be that moment. There has to be that moment. There also has to be an acknowledgement on both sides, because one of the strongest arguments behind why there are these eruptions of violence from the Palestinian side is the sustained and constant sense of strangulation and control and inability to live freely, or as freely as anyone else would normally expect to. And so unfortunately, by the same standard, it's not surprising. We all knew that Israel were going to feel that they had to have their opportunity to hit back, which they've done, and they're doing, and they've done. And I do think now is the time when you've got 30 minutes or whatever left of fuel, where they've been, people in the Gaza Strip are being encouraged to evacuate, but can't evacuate because none of the routes out are actually available. When none of the world leaders have actually talked about the innocent Palestinians at all, haven't mentioned them yet at all. and we're looking at a siege which, and this is where we get into the awfulness of proportionality.
Say, are we going to
a
get
siege where potentially 2.5 million people are being prevented to stop from getting food. That doesn't feel right, just as the original attacks didn't feel right.
I mean, they are now listening. I've listened to a number of doctors this morning, and they said there is now, I mean, the hospitals are at full capacity, right? The one doctor was talking about all the children on his dialysis ward are going to die, right? Because they do not have the fluids and the things that they need to put, that they need. We can't ignore that. Even if you think of it just totally selfishly, not thinking about them as human beings, but just what will this do? What could this set off? The region is so fragile. Other Arab nations could be really ignited by this if we are going to witness.
Well,
if we are going to witness the people of Gaza being the innocent people of Gaza, I always say that, being starved to death.
My sense of what is that? I mean, the only what happens literally, I think, in the next 6 hours as Gaza runs out of fuel on all supplies is going to dictate the entire journey of the rest of this. I think Hezbollah, I think Lebanon, I think Iran, I think all of these kind of other factions. There was a case in Egypt of a police officer, an Egyptian police officer, just shooting two Israeli tourists.
Police officer.
Yeah, and so so the idea of that sort of aggravation within other countries. You've got countries that are friendly with Israel, such as Jordan. You've got countries that are, if not collaborators, they sit in an uncomfortable agreement, if you like. But their populations don't necessarily sign up to that same opinion, and so. I think this is a really key moment. I think if Israel push relentlessly, because at the moment they've flattened Gaza City and all their troops are on the border. They're about to go in. There's 100,000 on the border now. They've armed everyone, I believe, in local villages on the border, civilians with rifles. What happens next? Hezbollah, Lebanon, Syria, everyone is waiting to see. And this will be the moment. It's how they now go in. If they quickly open genuine escape routes, I think Biden has just mentioned that then the humanitarian corridor needs to be established for Palestine.
Because apparently that's bombed, so it's really difficult for people to get out. I mean, the thing is, how are you going to? If the plan is to get back at Hamas, to get the Hamas. Anyone involved in this dead and gone, how can you pick that out in Gaza? That must mean that they're just going to keep bombing until there is no Gaza. And then that is, that's a whole heap of hell that's waiting. Oh God, what a horrible. I said to Mark yesterday, I don't go more than 15, 20 minutes without thinking about this through the day. I'm finding it just, it's
a curious thing to say, but my hope within all of this is pointless. Is that actually Israel will take their foot off the gas and they won't necessarily go in on foot.
Don't cut off the water.
If they do go in on foot,
this is 50% of them are under 15. Let's just remember that, and Just lastly, be really careful about what you're looking at online, because there is so much stuff that is coming out that is just fake. Listening to the BBC this morning and listening to genuine doctors out there talking as the bombs are going off, listening to journalists out in on the other side. That's the way to get your news, not from there's so much rubbish being put out on Twitter.
I mean, it's curious.
Films from years ago.
But I mean, really look, I know in propaganda, we saw this in Ukraine. There's all sorts of propagandist kind of like fake news, fake films and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the other thing to bear in mind is, yes, the awful stories of the babies, the children, the deaths. And in fact, there was an Israeli IDF commander or leader who said that he couldn't confirm some of the reports of beheadings and things like that. So it's really important that when one hears this stuff, it's inflammatory, and everyone is seeking to validate their position because a lot of what they're feeling is valid. Of course, Israel is hurt. Israel is in shock. Israel is traumatized. The Palestinians are in a post-traumatic stress place, courtesy of years and years and years of this. as are Israel too. You know, so it's on both sides
There
of the
was,
equation.
you know, when they do the religious moment on BBC Four, there was such a great guy today, and he was just talking about the difference between anger and rage. And anger is a powerful human emotion, and rage is something that can just cause more hell, basically. And it was really good. If you get a chance, listen to it. It's great.
I mean,
Anyway,
I
we
hate
need
to quote Yoda of all people, but it's a great quote. I'm not
Yeah.
going to do his voice because it's inappropriate. But when he says anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering, and that's it.
Rage.
That
Turn
is
up for
that's what we're
rage.
saying. So you want to end on something fun and fluffy, quite literally. We're going to try and turn a corner here. Is that right? You sent these 4 clips.
Oh, are we not doing it?
No, we haven't got time.
We haven't got time.
Got to literally
Okay.
dash.
So yeah, I thought we need an and finally that will warm our hearts. So here we go.
Oh, flipping egg. Oh my God, it's drinking from an egg.
No, it's coconut.
Oh, it's oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, look at the dog.
I know.
Oh, hello.
Hello, bunny.
Oh my God. Let's add this one now. He's eating a melon.
That's so cute.
Oh, so sorry, guys. If you're listening on podcast, you're now sitting there here. We're probably sounding like something awful online, but
we're just.
Oh my Lord!
Look at the puppy in the dark sharing the little fountain of water. How cute
look at its tongue.
Is that?
I'm loving that.
And you know what? Look at what harmony they live in together.
Oh, well done,
a cat
this
and
is
a bunny.
exactly what we all need.
A cat and a bunny. Look, that bunny is not scared of that cat at all. They're sharing the cherry tomatoes.
Look, it's got lipstick.
I know, from the tomato.
Now, if you were just listening, driving on the tube or anywhere else, you're going to have to literally find the link and watch this on YouTube now because that was seriously cute. Okay, guys, as I say, Members Live later today. The second part of our A Couple Does Studland is going to be landing later, and lots of other stuff too.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
And
and
look after your hearts.
And maybe really try not to watch too much news. And do remember that not all of it is trustworthy. You know. So we're going to end through the power of waving our hands.